Alright, here we have the enemy. Now, one thing about this one is that the titular enemy, of course, is the Romulans, but this is one of those episodes where they deal with the fact that the Romulans aren't necessarily an innately hostile race. It's just that the Federation and the Romulans have had a very tense relationship since the Romulan neutral zone was formed. And we don't really get a particularly good insight as to why that is that way, just that it is. And even this episode doesn't actually deal with that. This episode just looks at the fact that Romulans are just that unhappy with the Federation. Anyways, though, so the A plot is that they're looking at Galorndon Core because they picked up a distress signal. Now, it turns out that the distress signal was from a Romulan ship that had crashed on the planet. Why the Romulans were there is a very good question. How the Romulans crashed is also a very good question, and we don't get answers to those. Now, we find that there were two Romulans there. Patak, who eventually dies, and I forget what the other guy's name was. School. Well, Tomalak eventually comes up with a way to, well, comes to escort the crew of the Romulan ship back to Romulan space, but not until after we have this scene with Bakra and LaForge on the planet where they have to figure out how to cooperate to survive and stuff. And yeah, this planet is a death trap because the electromagnetic radiation on the planet is slowly killing them. And by slowly killing them, we mean that they are physically crippled by it. Now, the other Romulan that they had managed to beam back to the ship before the electromagnetic storms became too severe for beaming properly. Well, the other Romulan is dying and decides he doesn't want a blood transfusion from a Klingon, so blah, blah, blah. He'd rather die than uh, have any Klingon cells inside his body, which, I mean, understandable if you hate Klingons that much, I suppose, but why he hates Klingons that much has to do with what happened in the Klingon-Romulan War. It also puts an interesting spin on the Klingon-Romulan War, because in TNG, we mostly hear about the Klingon-Romulan War and the whole thing of like, oh, the Romulans betrayed the Klingons and then started trying to murder them all. And that's what we hear most often in TNG. But this episode suggests that the Romulans had some really, really deep mad on for the Klingons. And that it wasn't as simple as, oh, we feel like betraying you now. That something the Klingons did pissed off the Romulans really bad. But it doesn't explain what. And that's an interesting twist to this because, as I often point out, Klingons often get given a free pass. It's like they're honorable warriors. They're a different culture that is unlike ours, but must be respected as such, when they act like backstabbing jackasses. And is it that the Klingons being backstabbing jackasses that pissed off the Romulans? Interesting food for thought. The bulk of this, though, because that's real. interesting historical background context, but the bulk of this episode is about the crew of a Federation ship trying to help the crew of a crashed Romulan ship who are highly untrusting of them. This is one of those things where I have to question, it's like, why are the Romulans acting this hostile to a Federation crew when they're technically in Federation space? And why don't they just like give up and like, okay, fine, you caught us, we'll go peacefully? No, they're not doing that. Why not? That's a very interesting question. Well, and something that the episode doesn't dig into is Galorndon Core isn't really a Federation planet. It's in Federation space but it got moved into Federation space as part of the establishment of the neutral zone. Prior to the neutral zone, it was apparently Romulan space and a Romulan colony world at some point in the past. And that's apparently the reason why Bakra and Patak were at the planet. Like, they were looking around for something of historical importance on the planet. And the episode does not explain why. It really doesn't. And that's one of those things that they would have to workshop if you're going to use this, because this has a seed of a good a TTRPG session in it. It's just you can't use it straight up because of the fact that it's all about 2 or 3 characters interacting with 2 or 3 other characters, and it's not really a full party situation. You have critical NPCs. You have reasons to question the critical NPCs about their motives. You're not fighting them, though. And I mean, because like there actually is several points in here where, it seems like someone's going to be doing combat, maybe, possibly, because like Giordi's tense standoff with Bakra, for example, that could have ended up with someone getting shot at, but a Romulan disruptor pistol. Bakra actually didn't really have anything to gain by actually attacking the Forge. And that was part of the thing with their standoff, is that Bakra just wanted to make sure that Forge didn't, shall we say, try anything that would negatively impact Bakra's chances of getting off the planet alive. Because, let's face it, Bakra's not doing too good. Because Bakra's been on the planet long enough that it's starting to fry his nervous system. The Forge has a different issue because of the fact that, in his case, it's doing something that it wouldn't do to a normal human. It's affecting his cybernetic implant's eyepiece and making the cybernetic implant not work. So he's functionally blind and thus needs Bakra to tell him where things are in order to work on stuff. And Bakra doesn't want to trust him. But then again, eventually Bakra's like, okay, fine, I have to do something. Thing is, that kind of a story is very one-on-one. It's not something you have like 3 or 4 players doing stuff with. And in fairness, one thing you could do with this is kind of sort of a threefold story. You have Bakra, you have Tomalak, you have Patak, each doing different things. Like Patak is in medbay because you're trying to figure out how to do some sort of medical treatment on him to, keep him from dying. Well, that medical treatment doesn't work because of the aforementioned thing of he hates Klingons so much that he would rather die than be helped by a Klingon. Why is that? Makes you wonder. And then, of course, there's the fact that they have a full medical team and they aren't able to come up with a way of treating him that doesn't require infusing him with uh, stem cells from a Klingon. Do I understand that? No. But it got thrown into the plot as the reason why his hatred of Klingons is relevant. A bit strange, but this is a neat example of a reuse set where changing the lighting and changing the camera angle makes the set feel different, even if it's really the same cave set that they used 12 times already. Anyway, though, yeah. See, rewriting the story to have a larger number of Romulans and a larger number of Federation personnel on the planet is one option that you could do with using this. Because, the whole idea of like Romulans doing Romulan things for Romulan reasons and then the Federation finds out about it, that's been done several times. And not necessarily with such a small number of Romulans. And this story could also have a very, very similar result with, 6 Romulans in the Romulan away team on the planet and not just 2. So that is something that you could definitely play with. And of course, there's the whole thing of negotiating with Tomalak, because Tomalak answers the distress signal that the Enterprise followed to Galundon Core. And Tomalak has very similar thoughts about the distress signal to the Federation, actually. Is like, yes, I'm here to save the Romulans, and so on and so forth. Well, yeah. Tomalak actually showed up in several episodes. Anyway, though, see, that Tomalak's presence is the other thing that would be a potential source of combat in the thing. Is that you have the Romulans show up and you decide you're going to antagonize them and try to bluff them and force them into leaving. And oh wait, no, they decided they're ready to shoot at you. I mean, that's a thing that Romulans might do. At any rate, though, this is one of those where having a few ideas as to where you could go with this is definitely it makes a good starting point. But this is one of those where you would have to do a lot with it, not just like 1 or 2 tweaks to make it into something you could use for a TTRPG. Anyways, though, I think I've said enough about this one. See you next time.